So you've probably heard of Baidu, right? The Google of China. But you know what? That nickname, it really only scratches the surface. This is a story about a tech giant staring into the abyss, facing a crisis that meant it had to completely reinvent itself or just, poof, disappear.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? What do you do when the very thing that made you successful starts to crumble? Do you just give up and fade away? Or do you make a huge, and I mean huge, bet on what's next? Baidu's journey is a pretty incredible lesson in how companies evolve. This isn't just a story about a search engine, not at all. It's about a massive, high-stakes pivot, a real fight to stay relevant. So let's dive in. Let's go back to the beginning.
Okay, so to really get where Baidu's headed, we've got to look at where it started. And trust me, in the beginning, their rise was, well, it was absolutely meteoric.
So it all started back in 2000 with Robin Li and Eric Xu. The company just took off like a rocket. See, Li had already cooked up this super sophisticated search algorithm. And get this, in just 5 years, they launched one of the hottest tech IPOs of that era. By the mid-2010s, they were totally the undisputed king of search in China.
And when I say successful IPO, I'm not kidding. On its very first day of trading on the NASDAQ, the stock jumped over 350%. Can you imagine? That wasn't just a launch, it was an absolute explosion. It really put Chinese tech on the map for investors everywhere.
So how'd they pull it off? Well, it was kind of the perfect storm, really. First, you had this massive boom in China's internet users. Second, Baidu's tech was just plain better at understanding the nuances of the Chinese language. And a huge piece of the puzzle, foreign competitors were pretty limited. So yeah, right product, right time, right place.
But here's the thing about tech. Nothing lasts forever. Dominance is temporary. And just as Baidu was at the top of its game, the world started changing. The ground literally began to shift under them. The open web they had mastered, it was being replaced by something new, and it was a threat to their very existence. Okay, so here's the problem in a nutshell. Baidu's whole empire built on the open web. But people were moving to their phones, right? Spending all their time inside these closed-off apps. We're talking super apps like WeChat. And you can't just use a search engine to look for something inside an app. This whole shift was a direct hit to their business model.
So, Baidu knew they had to do something. And if you look at where their money comes from now, it tells the whole story. Yeah, search and ads are still the biggest piece of the pie, but that other 35% from AI and the cloud, that's their future. They weren't just patching holes in a sinking ship, they were building brand new lifeboats.
And this is the turning point, the climax of the story, Baidu's decision to go all in on AI. We're not just talking about diversifying here. This was them planting a flag and declaring, our entire future is going to be built on artificial intelligence. This quote from the CEO, Robin Li, really says it all. You have to understand, for them, AI wasn't just some buzzword or a cool side project. It was a deep, fundamental belief that this technology was going to change everything, every single industry, and they were determined to lead that change. And their biggest bet by far is something called the Apollo platform. Now listen to this. They're not just trying to build their own self-driving car. No. They're trying to build the brain for all self-driving cars. Think of it like this. They want to be the Android for the auto industry, an open source system that powers the next generation of transportation. It's a huge bet, a real moonshot.
And their plan is actually pretty smart and methodical. Step 1. Make it an open platform. That way you get all the car makers to join in and build this big ecosystem. Step 2, prove it works with pilot programs like the robo-taxis you can see in major Chinese cities. And the end game? Mass deployment. They want to be the software that's inside basically every autonomous vehicle on the road.
So as you can imagine, a company going through this kind of massive change, well, for an investor, it's got to be a roller coaster. And Baidu's stock price pretty much tells that exact story, with all the ups and downs. It's really incredible how the stock chart mirrors the company's story, right? You've got that first phase of explosive growth when search was king. Then you see this choppy, volatile period when the challenges and new regulations hit. And now, there's this renewed excitement, and it's pretty much all being driven by the promise of their big AI bet. You know, there are some really powerful takeaways from Baidu's story that apply to just about any industry. First, real innovation takes patience. We're talking years of pouring money into something before you see a payoff. It also shows that being on top doesn't mean you'll stay on top.
And maybe most importantly, it highlights just how crucial it is to have a long-term vision to get through all the chaos. So that leaves us with this one big question. Baidu saw the writing on the wall, looked right past the immediate problems, and made this enormous bet on a future that was still way off. In today's world of constant change and crazy competition, you have to wonder, maybe the biggest advantage isn't how fast you are or how much of the market you own. Maybe it's just the guts to stick with a long-term vision. What do you think?